I'm live down here. Oh, here we are. Going to go live here on doing the Kabbalah of football and the Super Bowl. You know, it's obvious that the Super Bowl is a momentous occasion. It's the American religious holiday of the year. Football itself is a tremendous kind of spectacular. Besides 100,000 people in the stadium, the world comes to a stop. It's the equivalent of Yom HaKippurim in Judaism. And I'm just stalling here a minute, as you know, because I want people to come in. There's a great lure in football and a great equality of football with the Kabbalah itself and the tree of life itself. Baseball has this same analysis to Kabbalah with the people on the playing field, but football even more so. And let me get it, and I'm going to repeat it a couple of times because this is the major thing that I want to talk about. What's the great lure of football and why this is, why the quarterback is the most important position and the spectacular position. There are 11 men on each team, and they're juxtaposed 11 against 11. The total number of players on the field are 22. These 22 players correspond to the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, which are usually divided when you do transitions and things like that. They're divided into 11 each. But the major thing is that the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet are always on the field. See? And they're done 11 against 11. The other thing is that let's take just one of these 11. Remember that the tree of life has 10 sephirots, and then it has 10 sephirots, and then it has a quasi 11th sephirot called da'as. So there are really 10 sephirots on the tree of life, and then there's da'as. So there's 11 spots on the tree of life. That corresponds to especially the offensive alignment and setup. And I'm going to show you why. The tree of life is divided into 3 higher sephirots, which are Keter, Chokmah, and Bina. Okay? Keter, Chokmah, and Bina. And then the lower 7 sephirots are called Zir, Anpin, and Nekuva. And so the 3 backfield men, the fullback and the 2 halfbacks, who now in modern days are split, those comprise the 3 upper sephirots. And then the 7 lower sephirots, Zir, Anpin, and Nekuva, are the linemen. There has to be 7 linemen. So you have 3 upper and 7, that makes 10. That's the normative division of the sephirots. And then you have in this alignment a quasi-sephirot, which is a transition from the upper 3 to the lower 7. So the 3 and the 7 have a transition, and that's called da'as, and that's the quarterback. So there's really 4 backfield men, and he's 3, a transition point between the 3 and the 7, and then the 7 linemen. And these 7 linemen, then the football itself represents the seed. You see? The seed, which is given to the quarterback to then handle I'm getting some beautiful messages here. Say whatever you want here. By the way, this is not one of my normative Kabbalah classes. You can say whatever you want here. I will never block anybody. Never. You see? And at another time, I'll answer all these questions about Judaism. And graphic explanation. Well, there's 3 on top. Those are it's like this, the fullback and the 2 halfbacks. And then the quarterback, and then the 7 linesmen. So that's the 7. Do you look? Yeah, these are beautiful quotes. It's good. Let me take a cup of my tea. This is not an entertainment, by the way. I just read a beautiful article this morning. This is serious stuff. I'm trying to show you that the lure of football is a cosmic lure, that today is a very special day. It's more than just a secular game. This is the religion of America. To have 100,000 people in the stands and millions of people with billions of dollars spent, it's practically a national holiday. And so, underneath all that is the tree of life, is the Jewish tree of life. So the underneath foundation of why people have this lure to this amazing day that you're going to participate in today is that the tree of life is a structure. It's a Kabbalistic structure based on the number 10, 3 and 7. Now, the Jews are not the only people to have this 3 and 7. If you look up Gurdjieff or Uspensky, or there's a lot of things that are divided into 3 and into 7. 3 as a trinity, and 7 as the 7 days of the week. Yeah, my problem. I don't have a great broadcast here. I'm sorry. The power in the room here. So I don't know what to tell you. This is the best I can do at this time. At another time, my brother, I think, is going to watch some television show in the other room, so I can't broadcast from there. It's my problem, by the way. So I don't know what to tell you. The essence, what I'm trying to express here today, is that the 7, the 3 and the 7, are universal numbers. Everybody knows the difference between the 3 and the 7. This 3 is the triangle. It's the closed container. It's the first number that has a closed container. 2 makes an angle, but 3 makes a triangle, and that's a closed container. The 4 then makes a square. And 7 is obviously a completion of the weekdays, of the 6 days of the week where God created the universe, and then the 7th day where God rested. That 7 function, everything, lucky 7 in dice and stuff like that. And so there's a universal aspect of 3 and 7. Okay? And what connects that 3 and 7 is da'as. It's an in-between thing. Okay? And so this in-between thing actually becomes the quarterback. You see? The most important man on the field is the person who transitions between the 3 and the 7, who transitions up and who transitions down. Okay? Now, as I was saying, there are 11 people on each field, on each side, and when you put those 11 people together, you have these things called, you can look them up, they're called Atbash and Albam, where one letter corresponds to another. So an Atbash is that the Aleph corresponds to the Tov, the first corresponds to the last letter. And when you put all of them together, 11 on the top, 11 on the bottom, you have 22, and that's what you have in the football field. So the football field itself is 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, which also correspond to the 22 tarot trumps. Each of the 22 tarot trumps corresponds to a Hebrew letter. And so what you have on the field are the 22 cards of the major arcana in the tarot, and you have the 22 letters of the alphabet, of the Hebrew alphabet. Those 22 letters are divided into 2 sets of 11. Each of the 10 plus the middle, the quarterback, so to speak. And so there's a Kabbalistic function when you see it, and that's the unconscious lure of why America loves football. America loves football because of the unconscious lure that's happening into the unconscious, into the collective unconscious. And so today is really, if you really want to know, like a Yom HaKippurim. It's a special day. This is even greater than the World Series. Football, for some reason, is the unconscious religion of America. Now, we could talk about that. Is that good, bad, or ugly? But that's the way it is. Now, the Super Bowl is practically a national holiday. And people have even talked about having Monday after the Super Bowl as a national holiday. So in a certain way, one can understand that. It's like the day after New Year's. If there are any Kabbalah questions, or if everybody understands this about the Kabbalah or football, be happy to answer them. I don't think my 11 came from, yes, that's a good question, thank you. 11 comes from the 10 Sephiroth, if you're familiar with that. You can look it up. We'll look up all this stuff. The tree of life in Judaism has 10 spots. And there's an 11th spot called Das, D-A-A-T, dot. Knowledge, it's kind of like knowledge, that's in between the 3 and the 7, so that makes 11. They're also called 11 spices, you see. Things like that. 10 sweet smelling ones, and then one bitter one that make the thing good together. But the 11 comes from this, the total tree would be 11 spots, 10 plus this center one. Now, the real thing about that tree is that there are 11 spots going down, and then there are 11 spots going up. That makes 22. So it's like offense and defense. And that makes 22. So there are 11 going down and 11 going up. And metaphysically, this 3 and the 7 are obvious. The 7 linemen are the 7 days of the week. The 7 backfield men are considered like the 7 Trinity. The 3 in Trinity. And the transition person is the quarterback. That's the 7th man. And it's lined up like that. 3, transition person, and 7. So I'm not saying anything that is weird or out of the ordinary here. Any other Kabbalah questions or any other questions in general about the Super Bowl or somebody's opinion of the Super Bowl? Join in an interaction because this is what I wanted to say about the Super Bowl. I did a video a couple of years ago that's still on YouTube. Thank you. Called The Kabbalah of Football. And you can go watch it on, I think my name is Aleph, Aleph, Alif, The Kabbalah of Football. You know? And so that's why I'm going to stay on here if there are any questions. But I wanted to present that so when you look at it today, see that each side. Oh, I'm very sorry about this, by the way, and that's why people have been dropping out. You know, I think, and I don't know what to do because my connection is bad here. Hold on, I'm going to walk around a little bit. Maybe I get a better connection. Tell me if there's a better connection. So, let me keep the door open here, maybe. If there's a better connection, I'll go to another spot. Tell me if the connection is better here or if it's dropping out. Oh, good, thank you. Maybe you'll get the connection here. We'll see what happens. So my brother's in there, so I had the door closed. No need to tell you what people are. Thank you. No need to tell you what people are watching on television today, you know, and how this relates to football and things in general. Television, that's very funny. Actually, very appropriate, you know. Is everybody going to be watching the Super Bowl today, by the way? And if one watches it, please watch it as that 11 people playing against 11 people. So the total are the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet making different patterns on the field. And then the beauty of it is that there's a switch position. What was the, offense then becomes defense. See? So it's not only there's not only one side here. You see? There's not only one side, there's two sides. Thank you. I'm not going to mention names of people I know here, by the way. I don't like to mention the names because if I repost this. But I'm aware of the people who I know who are sending in. This whole interaction of who is like on offense and then who is on defense. See, the same people, they're on offense. Now, years ago, you have to remember, I've been watching this 51 years, the Super Bowl. Years ago, even before that, if you really want to know, they didn't have people who played both ways. But in the old days, 60 years ago, they used to have players that played both offense and defense. See? Now everything has become a specialty. But before, the offensive team became the defensive team, the same 11 players. Now they have, obviously, specialties for each position. But this whole interaction is very important, like a specialist on defense as opposed to a specialist on offense. And that the defensive players don't play offense. And then they have a thing called special teams. So when you look at this game today, which everybody, I hope, looks at, and the ads in between, because you can see a lot of sociology in the ads in between, and the sociology of the halftime show, and the sociology of who sponsors the entire event, and the sociology of the nature of the comments. See? And the sociology of how aggressive this whole thing is to begin with. Is this what we really want? And the sociology of concussions, of flying at each other. Years ago, there weren't even face masks. You see? And this is the entire sociology. Is this what you want to be represented by? So the Kabbalah of football is that yes, it is the religion of the U.S. It is the religion of the U.S. And it's also, the president of the U.S. That's right. And so that's the point. The point is, look what we're into as the religion of the. Certainly seems to be a kind of like a materialism. Underneath it all lies a structure of deep religiosity. Pekah. That's all I speak. I speak Russian. Pekah. Can't speak a lot. Don't want to give my heritage away. So I pretend I don't. You could tell I speak Russian. Do you want me to do a comedy routine? So I could do a comedy routine now. Anyway. Yeah. What can I say? So the entire thing, please look at it as an event. As an event. And that's why you should do your own underlying spiritual, this is what spirituality is. Now, in a deep sense, there is no difference between deep spirituality and deep secularism. One must be able to find the deep spirituality within the secular. If one thinks that, they're high level, so to speak, and you can only be spiritual up in the clouds, you got it wrong. You have to be spiritual down here below. So in a certain sense, what we're seeing is a deep spirituality in the football, because the entire nation takes it so seriously. It's a very beautiful and deep event. And that you should be able to connect to godliness. Yes, it is. So true what you're saying there. Spirituality is the daily things we encounter. But there are some that are even higher and easier to find. And today's Super Bowl. Super Bowl is one of those, because it's easier to see on like specific high events. And there's no higher event in secularism than the Super Bowl. So the point is, you have to see the deep spirituality in the Super Bowl, and that's the structure that I'm trying to give you when you see the tree of life. You see, the tree of life, which is the underlying structure of Kabbalah. If you understand this tree of life of the 3 and the 7, and the transition and the Das, you see, if you're able to see that in the tree, in what you're doing, and bring everything back from the secular into the spiritual world, and that you see that it's an unconscious and collective unconscious function, then you're going to get the most out of the Super Bowl today. It's a collective unconscious function. And this is what they call of the beginning is wedged in the end, and the end is wedged in the beginning. And it's what you call the Ouroboros of the snake biting its own tail. And that's the great secret in the Garden of Eden. And so you see the deepest spirituality in the most profane secularism. And so that's the structure I tried to give you today. And I'll hang on for a minute in case there are any more questions. But that's actually what I'm trying to do. Thank you. See, what I'm trying to do is to show you, and that's deep Kabbalah. Bring that into whatever religion you follow. But thank you, by the way, and thank you for your comments. You know, if you have any other Kabbalah questions, don't hesitate to send them to me by Twitter or whatever. Or my number on here, I don't know what they have. But if you have Kabbalah questions, I'm happy to answer them. There's no difference, as you say. You have to find it in daily encounter. Well, thank you. I hope you watch a few minutes today. And, see it as the tree of life. Now, they have plenty of pictures of the tree of life on Google. Take a look. Tree of life with Das. One of the great secrets is that they have 10. Now, here's the 10 fingers and the tongue. That's the in-between. Just like there are 10 toes and the penis in between. So there's really 11. See? Just like there are two sides of the line, the right and the left. See? There's two hands, 5 and 5, and then the tongue. That's the 11th. So the tongue represents da'as. And we should, because you speak, that's knowledge. And the same thing is in the penis, between the 10 toes. That's das. So the whole secret of the tree of life, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, is to control da'as, both the tongue and the bris. It's much more difficult to control the tongue than the bris. And that's the higher level of the bris of the tongue. So that's what we have. So you see 11 against. Well, it's very hard. But just remember, it's more difficult to control the tongue, evil speech. That's why silence is the highest level. Silence. How hard it is for silence. And the control of the bris of penis has to be done according to. They don't ask for chastity in Judaism. They ask for certain type of control, appropriate usage. And so we don't ask for silence like a monastery in Judaism either. We ask for appropriate usage of the tongue. I hope you people have felt that what I've said today is appropriate usage of the tongue. That's why if you notice before, I don't care what you say. Thank you. I don't care what the people say here. If they don't have appropriate usage, that's not my fault. But because they are trying to bait me, I'm not going to answer back. See? But you have to remember, if that picture of the other man that came up was, I'm a wise guy here. I'm 70 years old. I've had, if that was about your picture, like 35. So I've had 35 years more to read and study. Also at 70, thank you. But what do you call it? Also at 70, I'm on the way to check out. I'm on the checkout line, Well, I'm at the back of the line, but, But when you have to say something, you should not hold back. You have to say, that's exactly right. And the same thing with sex. They have a thing called onus, that means compulsion. When you feel that you want to do something, you make up your own mind when you should use it, how you should use it. Don't listen to some other person. I have many videos that I can't help you. I'm not going to be able to tell you what to do. You see, that's one of the great secrets. Each individual has to invent the wheel and find it himself. I found what's good for me, but just remember, I'm 70 years old. That's my whole point. So anything that I'm trying to tell you is only trying to be a shortcut for you. You look at the football game today that way. That's an expression of the 10 Sephirots, and then with Das as the 11th. You look at it as there's 22 letters on the field. You look at it as the expression of the 22 tarot cards of the major arcana, which also correspond to the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. And that the world is created by these interactions of the tarot cards. and of the letters. That's how you make words, interactions of the letters. So if you are able to see all that, you will get more enjoyment, more pleasure in life. You will have a deeper understanding of what's going on. That's called intellectual pleasure. So in a certain sense, one wants to transmute that energy that's called sexual energy into an intellectual pleasure energy. So as a young man, one gets pleasure from the penis, and then as an older man, one goes up with that energy and gets pleasure in the brain. When you watch today, I hope you get pleasure in the brain of understanding the role of football and of the Super Bowl within the structure of society, and why so many people are looking for that. You see? For those who don't know, this hair, it's not obvious here, and beard, not obvious here, oops, means something within the Jewish structure. That's exactly right, Nazir. And so when one becomes that, one's point of view changes, one's perception changes. See? Hopefully for the better or more developed, so that the individual who changes can get more pleasure. It's all about pleasure and understanding, which is a pleasure in the brain. So all this is a development. And so some of these words today, I've tried to express part of my development. My perception of football is this, that it's an expression of the tree of life and its underlying structure. Very good. If there are no more questions, I'm going to hang up and prepare. We're going to prepare for the Super Bowl this afternoon, and prepare for the ads, and prepare, hopefully that no one gets hurt. Is that so? Is that true? Let's admit, no, thank you, please. Thank you. And I'm nobody's sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you, people, for watching and interacting and spurring me on. And whoever you root for today, I hope it's a close game. Thanks.